Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Ryan Day, the Ohio State Buckeyes land another massive commitment in the 2025 class coming from five-star linebacker Riley Pettijohn from the state of Texas. And what I love so much about this pickup is not only Riley Pettijohn being one of the best linebackers in this 2025 cycle, I love the fit in terms of where Ohio State is trying to go on the defensive side of the football, where you look at the modern era of college football, something we talk about a lot, but I think more specifically where the Big Ten is going with the injection of programs like Oregon and USC and Washington to this Big Ten conference, there's going to be a lot more speed on the offensive side of the football. You need linebackers that can kind of deal with some of that speed. You look at Riley Pettijohn runs a 10.77 in the 100-meter dash. Crazy speed for someone who's 6'2", 215 pounds, and not necessarily a knock on Tommy Eichenberg, who, again, was one of the best linebackers we saw in the Big Ten for years. But you just get the feeling that guys like Riley Pettijohn will be able to bring a little bit more value to this Ohio State defense at that linebacker spot because of the athleticism and the ability to play in space that he brings to this Ohio State defense. Last thing I want to note before we get into the film, Ryan Day does not get enough credit in terms of how he builds his staff. I mean, you look at keeping James Laurinaitis, bringing him in as the linebackers coach. James Laurinaitis doing a phenomenal job building this linebacker class out in 2025. We said when Ohio State made it official, he could be a serious weapon on the recruiting trail. We're seeing that play out. A massive commitment for Ohio State. Going to get into the film. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys and for everybody who's been rocking with the fellas the last couple of weeks and really a month at this point as we talk recruiting in the middle of June and July. Can't thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into Riley Pettijohn. And again, I think you'll love the length at 6'2", 215, but I think most importantly, you love the athleticism. I mean, a 10.77 in the 100-meter dash, those are kind of some freaky numbers. Again, faster than a lot of wide receivers you see coming out of the high school ranks. And why I think that's so big for Ohio State, you look at what these linebackers are going to be asked to do when you play programs like Oregon or like USC. You got to be able to operate in space, whether that's carrying tight ends up seams, whether that's going out to the flat, tackle and running backs, whether that's holding up in man coverage with a lot of different kind of pass catchers. You need linebackers that have the athleticism to do some of those things. And you look at a guy like Tommy Eichenberg and say, hey, one of the best linebackers in the tackle box that we saw in the Big Ten over the last couple of years. But from an athletic standpoint, from a speed and space standpoint, probably left a little bit to be desired. You turn on the film with Riley Pettijohn and say, there is no lack of athleticism and juice that you see from Riley Pettijohn. Super productive, 125 tackles, 8 tackles for a loss during his junior year. But I think more importantly, you turn on the film and you see his ability to not only hold up in coverage at a very high level, but also close distances between himself and ball carriers well too. You look at teams like USC, Oregon, going to be trying to get to the perimeter, having a linebacker that can routinely go sideline to sideline and kind of match some of that speed. I think it's absolutely massive. And again, I think you get into the film, one of the things you like the most is what he can do in coverage. This is something that is becoming so important in this era of college football. You need linebackers that can drop back in coverage and operate in space. You take a look here, Riley Pettijohn almost kind of playing that nickel role right here where he's carrying a wide receiver kind of up that seam. He's going to get his head around, make a play on the football. Again, it is hard to find linebackers that are comfortable running with wide receivers, tight ends, running backs up the seam. Riley Pettijohn with the 10.77 100-meter speed, he can do that at a high level. I think another thing you really like about the film is his ability to not only, have that closing speed, but operate in traffic. You talk about what's kind of between the ears, the instincts that Riley Pettijohn has. He is a guy that, one, covers a lot of space, but just kind of knows what's happening around him. And he sees that quarterback, again, closing speed is kind of some next level stuff. You see him get it done on special teams. This is all over the film. You see Riley Pettijohn kind of being the first one down there on the kickoff coverage, extremely impressive. But even more importantly, this kid is just really physical at the point of attack. You continue to work through the film and you just kind of see his ability to just operate in traffic. See kind of a little bit of a read option here where he's kind of sifting through a lot of traffic, keeping himself clean, and then he's getting downhill, closing the distance. He combines that elite athleticism with, at least in my mind, some really, really good football IQ. You look at this rep and say, maybe be a little bit more physical at the point of attack in terms of stacking and shutting blocks. But the speed, he's just so hard for offensive linemen to work up to the second level and pick up because of his athleticism. I'm a really big fan of Riley Pettijohn, been a really big fan, and I love where Ohio State's going in terms of valuing these kind of linebackers in this 2025 cycle, kind of understanding that, hey, with these new teams in the Big Ten, you got to have the athleticism at the linebacker position. You're going to see a lot of this type of stuff from USC and Oregon. You got to have linebackers that can get to the sideline and kind of fly around the football field. You take a look at Ohio State in 2025, not only the number one class in the country, but just checking a lot of boxes. But I want to focus in on what this front seven looks like, right? You take a look at the defensive line, guys like Zion Grady coming off the edge, Zahir Mathis, London Merritt, Maxwell Roy, but then you're pairing up a really good defensive line with guys like TJ Alford and Riley Pettijohn. Now, what's the best friend for hyper-athletic linebackers is having a really good defensive line in front of them that's allowing them to get downhill, play in space. You look at this combination of what I think is a really strong defensive line class, as well as a linebacker class that is probably one of the more athletic classes that you see between TJ Alford and Riley Pettijohn. If you're an Ohio State fan, you just love what this program is doing on the recruiting trail, specifically on the defensive side of the football. Again, a lot of the conversations about Ryan Day and Ohio State on the recruiting trail and kind of surround the quarterback spot, the wide receiver spot, which is position groups that Ohio State is going to recruit very well for as long as Ryan Day is running this program. But what they're doing on the defensive side of the football, that's at least what excites me the most for Ohio State. Riley Pettijohn committing to Ohio State, another massive pickup for the Buckeyes. We'll close it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it again. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.